But what I always say for myself is my goal is to be happy in what I do. I've gone from education to politics to social justice to journalism, back to politics to landscape. So it's like I've been happy in every job that I've had, and I want to find a way to contribute to society in some type of meaningful way.
Hello, how you doing? And this is What's the Tea? And today I got my first guest.
Introduce me.
No, we introduce ourselves on this show. No, but I have Vashon Jordan Jr. Vashon Jordan Jr. is a 24-year-old visual artist born and raised on the south side of Chicago. A graduate of Kennedy King College and Columbia College Chicago, he uses photography and videography to showcase authentic stories and moments that reflect the people of Chicago. Vashon enjoys engaging with youth across the city to inspire and encourage them to follow their dreams. So that's enough on his bio. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be your first guest.
I know, right? It's good to have somebody famous as my first guest.
Or whatever. I mean, we've known each other for maybe 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you saw the grind from the beginning.
Yeah, the grind from the beginning, from being at school with us to breaking your ankle and your arm and being homeschooled. You know, can you tell me a little bit about like that homeschooling process and how that actually shaped you for the future?
Interesting. Okay. Well, a little bit of background. We started high school in 2013. I had 2 injuries across high school. The first one was, I want to say around November of our freshman year. This is the first year in school. I slipped on black ice, broke my ankle. I was out of school for about 3 months. During that time, whenever you're out of school for an extended period of time, you do something called homebound schooling, where they assign a teacher to come to your home for about 1 to 2 hours every day. They bring all your schoolwork, you sit with them, you do your exams, and they give you your homework, and you do that on your own time. It was a tough process just because this was before, obviously, the pandemic, so no one was really thinking about school. I did have one class that had me, it was Mr. Frano, of course, who had me Zoom into class. But other than that, it was pretty much just on my own time. I wasn't really learning anything because I was doing everything on my own, trying my best to cheat during the exams. I was partially successful when Miss Yaki was my homebound teacher. And whenever she would come over, we would be at the kitchen table and I would have the books, my textbooks and my notebooks stacked in a certain way. So where she's sitting and where I'm sitting, she can't really see what's on the table in front of me because I'm surrounded by all these books. So if I'm doing an exam, I'll have a little cheat sheet right there. But other than that, it wasn't super productive, but it did start making me think about self-reliance, self-productivity, having so much time on my hands to get myself better, but also try to keep up with my work, because even if I wasn't doing my homework, those exams were still going to come, right? And those grades were something that I couldn't run away from, whether I was homebound or not.
So let's shift a little bit, because in that time were you working for Mr. Ferme before that incident or after that incident?
This was after. I broke my ankle a few months into the school year. I didn't know anybody seriously, didn't really have much of any friends. This was really early on.
So what actually drove you to getting into photography?
So I would say my parents have conflicting stories about how I started photography, because now they both want to take credit. Mm-hmm. I put the camera, I did it first. But I've had a lifelong interest in media. I can remember from my earliest years where my mother always called me Nature Boy, because I was always interested in why do the leaves change colors and what's going on outside. And when I would go on field trips in elementary school, my mom would always chaperone me, mainly because I wanted something from a gift shop. So she needed to come and bring her wallet so I can buy something. And at the time, disposable cameras is just what people had. There was one trip where she couldn't make it, so she sent me with a camera, and it was like love at first sight. But when you think back to disposable cameras, it was really my grounding in photography, because you can't see your shot right after you take it. You have a finite amount of photos, I think maybe 24 or 25 shots. You do that, take it to Walgreens, wait a few days to get it developed. So before a DSLR, before a smartphone or anything, I had to think in the mindset of, I got 24 shots for the entire day. How am I going to prioritize these photos? So if I want a picture of my friend, do I want you smiling? Do I want you frowning? Do I want you on a still face? Do I want you on the bus at the site? Because you're not wasting my film, right? So you want to have 1 or 2 shots. I have to think about that. When I got to Brooks, now I actually wanted to go to Chicago Academy for the Arts, not Shy Arts. This is a different school. Chicago Academy for the Arts for filmmaking. This is a school you have to take a test to get into, and not a test, but like you have to, for the filmmaking program, write a script and do all that kind of stuff. I ended up not getting accepted. Look at them now. I didn't get accepted, and Mr. Weaver really got me to go to Brooks because we were talking about the photography program. But freshman year, Eric Chandler, he was in our same class. He was a school photographer at elementary school. So when we got to high school, he ended up becoming a school photographer again. And I saw him with a camera freshman year. Asked him, hey, can I use it? And he kind of brought me in and took me under his wing a little bit. And it just kind of went on from there. But I wasn't necessarily working for a firm, but he was a tech coordinator who, of course, had ownership of the school's camera.
That's pretty cool. And, that's kind of how I got into it, because I seen you with the camera, and then seeing you with the camera, like, yeah, let me tag along a little bit. I don't even know how that conversation even started. Like how, because I remember you had asked me, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, what are those 3 things? And I said, I have no idea what those 3 things are. And you had told me. I remember this photographer that I had met, he had asked me those same questions. He was like, you can't be a real photographer if you don't even know what the exposure triangle is.
I have the same experience, and that's what made me, and this is one problem a lot of artists have. A lot of artists are so quick to go into wanting to photograph celebrities or do events, and how do I get gigs, and how do I get press credentials? But not really learning the fundamentals of photography. And I had that same experience. My uncle was getting married, and his wedding photographer, who was Reverend Jesse Jackson's personal photographer, he came to the rehearsal. I was I think I was a groomsman. And my grandmother was like, this is my grandson, and he a photographer and all of that. And he asked me the questions. He said, what's aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and white balance? And I couldn't answer it. And he was like, learn that. That summer I went and studied it, and that is what propelled me. But like to your point about the photography, it was really cool. Like I'm a teacher at heart. So I wanted to take as many people under my wing as I could. So I definitely had a community of people. I started a media club in Brooks where I was training people the little that I knew in photography. But it's cool even today to see people who weren't doing media at Brooks, but now I know a number of people who graduated from Brooks in our class and other classes who are now involved in media, which is really cool to see.
And my one thing I can say is that when it came to wanting to be part of the media team at Brooks, I was kind of selfish when it came to that. Like, couldn't nobody else come over here? I should be the star of the show over here. But I surely had to kind of get out of that mindset, out of that selfishness mindset, because it really didn't get me far anywhere. I'm the type of person that I really like to put other people on. Like, for instance, with the phones now, I had asked you a question earlier about when exactly do you use your DSLR mirrorless cameras versus using your cell phone? Because with these new phones now, it's like you don't need the cameras, but it's like a different production quality. It's different level once you bring a DSLR camera in or a camcorder versus your cell phone. So typically at this day and age, I feel like we all got everything we need if you got a newer version of a smartphone.
I mean, I think for me as a photographer and an artist, I think photography is part the technical aspect of, the camera you got and the latest iPhone, the latest mirrorless camera and how, expensive your lens is. But I think the other aspect of it too is like the person behind the camera, looking for the moment and the opportunity to really express and showcase what's going on. A lot of times I see people when I'm out at like events for work and political events, I see like staffers taking photos of someone, let's say, speaking at a podium, and they'll just stand up, take 2 shots and sit down. And I'm like, I know they don't have a good shot. Like that person speaking is mid-speech. They weren't smiling. The background maybe isn't the best. And that's something that no matter how good your camera is, you can't replicate the person behind it. And even with the craft, I mean, I have better gear today than I had in the past, but some of my best photos to this day were taken with much cheaper and lesser camera gear than what I have today.
And I heard you bring up your job. So what exactly is your job for people who don't know exactly who you are or what you do?
Yeah, so I currently work as a director of digital media and photography for the governor's office here in Illinois. So I travel around with the governor and take all of his photos. I previously was a photography intern for the Chicago Tribune, along with Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Mayor's office. I like to do aerial photos of the city in my spare time. I was voted Chicago Artist of the Year by Choose Chicago. And I'm also on Forbes for the first time, did local lists in I think 10 cities around the country. And I'm on the first Forbes 30 under 30 list here in Chicago. And in 2020, I covered the protest pretty extensively, shot over 17,000 photos in 3 months, and self-published a book, Chicago Protest, A Joyful Revolution, showcasing 100 photos from different demonstrations. That's in 17 Chicago public libraries. It was exhibited in the Museum of Science and Industry at Elmore's Art Museum, and the book is in the Chicago History Museum's collections.
It's a link to, is it on Amazon?
Yep. If you search Vashon Jordan Jr. or Chicago Protest, A Joyful Revolution, it's the first thing that'll pop up.
I'll put a link below this video.
Thanks.
No problem. So what is one of the most challenging things about being a photographer in general and then being the photographer for the governor?
I think, and this maybe is a challenge for just being an artist in general, is Pete Souza, President Obama's photographer. Anytime someone asks him, what's your favorite photo you've taken, he would always say, the photo I take tomorrow. And as an artist, it's like you're only as good as your last picture. In the sense of it doesn't matter how many awards you have, how many accolades you have, every day you have to show up and take the best pictures. Right? If people are hiring me for a gig, they don't care what my resume is if they don't like the photos I take at their event. And with photography in particular, a lot of people don't really realize your artistry until you take a photo of them or of an event that they were at. That's when they really see like your skill. So I think that's one of the most challenging aspects of it. Just every day trying to make something great. With the governor in particular, the things that we're doing are not as visually appealing as when I was working for the Chicago Tribune and you're out in public and doing parades or basketball games or even a crime scene. We're doing press conferences all the time, which is a person at a podium, some people sitting down. How do I make that visually appealing? And that's pretty difficult to do. I found my own style to try to make it appealing, but every day trying to make something out of that, get a really good moment where you're photographing the same person in the same type of events is a challenge every day.
Yeah, because once again, it's just them talking at a podium or shaking hands or talking to somebody. Yeah. So how exactly do you make a picture like that dynamic when you're always in the same situation?
Yeah, you know. And the other difference too is when you're someone's personal photographer, you have to care about their image. When I was with the Charlotte Tribune, we're not a PR firm. We don't really, we mind people's appearance, but like, you know, we are not trying to make you look as appealing and as glamorous as possible. But when you're someone's personal photographer, you don't want to post a photo of them if their tie is not straight. You don't want to post a photo of them from a bad angle. You don't want to post a photo of them if there's something in their teeth, right? So as a personal photographer, I also have to take that into account, that in every shot I take, I need to make sure that my principal looks appealing. So that's another element that I'm thinking about.
What is your goals within the next 5 years? Do you want to continue to be the governor's personal photographer, or do you have other goals in mind?
I mean, when it comes to political photography, being that I already work for the state, the White House has to be next. But what I always say for myself is my goal is to be happy in what I do. I've gone from education to politics to social justice to journalism, back to politics to landscape. So it's like I've been happy in every job that I've had, and I want to find a way to contribute to society in some type of meaningful way. And in everything that I've done, I can find ways that I've, like, even in high school, tried to make it a little better than how I found it. So for me, it's like, how am I putting my energy where it's needed the most? Before being in the governor's office, directly before I was on their campaign, right? So getting the governor, lieutenant governor reelected was where my energy was best put. I also volunteered for Mayor Johnson's campaign to help him get elected. That was where my energy was best spent in 2020 during the protest. So I'm just trying to put my energy in the best places, even like when it comes to Brooks. Even though I was doing photography to advance myself, me helping photographers like yourself and other photographers probably helped to give them a spark and help them out in their own careers.
Your degree is in TV and film.
Yes, television.
So television. So you haven't done anything in regards to television yet.
Correct. When I was thinking about college, one of my first thoughts was I didn't think it made sense for me to major in something that I already knew. So I wanted to major in television so that I can use college to learn something different. That's the reason why I decided not to do anything in there. But I think right now it's great for me to do photography because I have the availability to do it. But when I want like a consistent schedule and a consistent, way of life, then I'll probably move over to TV.
Once you have a consistent way of life and schedule, okay, so I thought you went to the office every day.
Well, I'm following a governor's schedule. So some days I'm working 4 days a week, some days I'm working 7 days a week. Some days my first event, and also, this is the governor, this is the leader of the state. So I may have an event in Springfield. That's a 3-hour drive each way, right? Or I'm spending the night out there during the legislative session, which is January through May. I'm in Springfield 3 days a week, every week for the most part. So that travel and those times is something that can really take it. Last week I had 3 events, one in the morning and then one after 6 p.m. So every single day, my schedule is different.
So anytime you travel to a different state, or even, do you travel to different states with him?
I don't travel outside the state. I've done that only once, but even, if we're going down south, that could be a 5-hour drive, depending on where we're going.
So even when you do travel, is your travel expenses being paid for, or are you paying for that out of pocket?
It's a mix. So I can ride with the governor. He has a vehicle and a vehicle that follows him. I can usually ride in that car and get a ride with him. We also have state vehicles. These are the vehicles with the green license plates that we can rent out. So anytime we're doing a trip, we're supposed to just go reserve a state vehicle. We drive that. They have these special credit cards that we use to get gas, so we're not paying out of pocket for that. If we're staying overnight, the state books us hotel rooms, so we're not paying for that as well. Then there are also per diems, where whenever we're like outside, like the city area, we get a certain amount of money to cover like our lunch expenses. So there's a certain amount of money we get per day, or the amount of time that we're out there. But for the most part, the state covers those expenses.
So once you get a consistent schedule, what exactly does a consistent schedule look like for you?
I mean, a lot of people know their work schedule, and it's pretty much the same, right? Whether it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, that's what you do. Outside of that, you're off work. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you work, or whatever your work schedule is. But like I said, for me, every day, every week is different. So it's like, let's say, for example, I had a child and my child is going to school every day and I need to drive them to school. I need to have a consistent schedule so that I can know I can take my child to school consistently. But if, today I can take my child to school, but tomorrow I have to be in Peoria at 8 a.m., I can't do that, right? So that consistent schedule is something that the average person has. But in my type of work, it's really different every day. And it's also, things pop up. We just had a incident in Chicago where there was a yellow line train that crashed into a piece of snow equipment up north. And the governor and other elected officials went to go visit the site. That came together in a matter of hours. There was another incident some months ago. There was like a tornado or something in a different part of the state. And on a Sunday, he went to go visit the site. I found out the night before. So you never know.
But I mean, that's kind of like living life on the edge. You would rather have a predictable schedule versus having something new every day. I mean,
well, not now, but I'm saying I have the television degree so that when I need that stability, I can be able to do. I don't need it right now. Right now, I can work 7 days a week, morning to night, and run and gun. But there's going to come a point in life where I can't do that. So I'm thinking ahead. Because I've always kind of been. But what I always say for myself is my goal is to be happy in what I do. I've gone from education to politics to social justice to journalism, back to politics to landscape. So it's like I've been happy in every job that I've had, and I want to find a way to contribute to society in some type of meaningful way.
Hello, how you doing? And this is What's the Tea? And today I got my first guest.
Introduce me.
No, we introduce ourselves on this show. No, but I have Vashon Jordan Jr. Vashon Jordan Jr. is a 24-year-old visual artist born and raised on the south side of Chicago. A graduate of Kennedy King College and Columbia College Chicago, he uses photography and videography to showcase authentic stories and moments that reflect the people of Chicago. Vashon enjoys engaging with youth across the city to inspire and encourage them to follow their dreams. So that's enough on his bio. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be your first guest.
I know, right? It's good to have somebody famous as my first guest.
Or whatever. I mean, we've known each other for maybe 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you saw the grind from the beginning.
Yeah, the grind from the beginning, from being at school with us to breaking your ankle and your arm and being homeschooled. You know, can you tell me a little bit about like that homeschooling process and how that actually shaped you for the future?
Interesting. Okay. Well, a little bit of background. We started high school in 2013. I had 2 injuries across high school. The first one was, I want to say, around November of our freshman year. This is the first year in school.